Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. I don't know if you've heard about this alleged whistleblower. He's supposedly one of 23 scientists that is responsible for what we call the Mandela Effect. He came on this website called 4chan and started commenting some pretty wild theories, I guess you would say, or his explanation. His first post is an image of the original JFK car with 4 people in it, and I'm guessing that's his way of saying, I am who I say I am. And I'm just going to go ahead and go through here and read all of these and kind of tell you what I think about it. So his first post says, I am one of 23 scientists responsible for what you call the Mandela Effect. I am here to answer questions regarding the original timeline and why it is happening. I will not disclose where I work or what I do at work. And for me, immediately, first yellow flag or whatever is he didn't capitalize these 2 I's. Now, I don't know, I could just be being picky, but if he's a scientist, he's probably going to pay close attention to detail, and if he does it in this one and the other one, why wouldn't he do it for the remaining 2? I don't know. Moving on, though. He says, you are being deceived. The original timeline was Bernstein Bears. Specifically, the Bernstein Bears. The EREN was the update, and the ERENSTEIN is the layer to hide the truth. And then he says, not everyone is accepting the updates. For some reason, the veil isn't working on some people. Currently, it is spiraling out of control, and we anticipate a larger population that will experience memory anomalies within the next few years. By 2020, everything will be settled. There are differences in memory because you are not supposed to remember any of it. In fact, you've been implanted with multiple layers of memory that are false. Somehow you have remembered, and this is very concerning. I encourage you to try to hold on to your memories. Okay. And then the next one he says, this is a proof of concept. If we can overwrite the population with false memories, unfortunately the future will be mostly manufactured. There was one person, and we are not sure how, that has somehow caused this unraveling effect. We have been trying to locate him, but he is currently hiding. This person has created the breakdown in the veil, and there are concerns that the whole system will fail unless we stop it in the next few years. This reality is a close copy of what we would call the real Earth. Unfortunately, the Earth was destroyed in 2012. Like we've all heard, the Mayan calendar ended in 2012. Makes sense, I guess, but who knows? One of the scientists on our team shares the original name, so we distorted it as much as possible to cover the updates. I cannot say who his name is because it will give away where I work, sorry. And again, he didn't capitalize this I, he could just be typing really fast, I don't know. And then he goes on to say, unfortunately, there was an extinction level event. In order to correct this current version, yet stay similar, we had to give you some updates. These include a larger liver to process the increased toxins, as well as moving some things around because the body would soon be unable to handle the toxicity of the planet. There are too many updates to the body, I don't even know where to start. And then he says, we use a quantum computer based on our own neural network. Unfortunately, some of that technology was passed down to us to be used for a very specific purpose. Imagine Russian dolls, and you have a pretty good idea of the true nature of our reality. We are manipulating, yet also being manipulated from outside. The person who uploaded all of these screenshots, he selected it with his mouse, and there was a few where he didn't have the text selected, and that's why I have these black question marks here, because I'm not sure if this was the original poster that's saying this or if this was somebody else. But on this one it says, if by him you mean the Thanaco entity, I'm not sure how to say that, he was killed in the second SOL destruction of 2008 after the completion of the Matryoshka brain. Not sure how to pronounce that one. And it says, since then, that traitor of the original 120 returned from the neighboring star in the year 28,330 does not exist. Are you speaking of the 19,323 destruction of the virtual humanity war of the solar system, or the second iteration of 1965 of the SOL reconstruction from bridge memory from the Neptune sphere? I have no idea what any of that is about. That's why there's a big question mark there. It gets a little bit easier to read from here on out. It says, to make sure humans can continue to experience and have a place to do it, the collective needs more data, and our experience is far more important than the planet itself. In fact, it really doesn't matter whether it is real or virtual. We're having interface problems at the moment. People are reporting recurring headaches after the most recent updates. Then he says, I'm sorry, but that is impossible. I'm not even sure where I am from. We are all clones. We work approximately 5 hours per day on the quote-unquote server, and then we get a few hours for socialization. Believe it or not, we are jealous and wished we could be there with you. And another yellow flag for me is that he says, we work approximately 5 hours per day. If you're a scientist, I always had the belief that you work really, really long hours, but who knows. And again, he didn't capitalize this I, but that could just be me being picky. Okay, and then he goes on to say, they don't accept any. They are the enemies. There is a growing resistance. We don't have much time. And again, I wasn't sure if this was the original guy saying this or not. Then he says, the most common side effects we are dealing with is recurring headaches, shortness of breath, memory loss, and a feeling of just waking up. There are various issues due to the interface changes. The brain had to be rearranged. We increased the size of the base brain, reduced the distance of the corpus, and shortened the area of the frontal lobe. And I don't know about anybody else, but over the past, 2 or 3 years, I've kind of been feeling like I have a shortness of breath. I don't know, it could just be me. And then he goes on to say, I am not here to impress you. In fact, I think I am feeling sad. I want to be with you on Earth, to experience things as well. It is very sad sometimes. Technically, I am on Earth, just not with everyone. And again, another yellow flag is he didn't capitalize Earth here. Being a scientist, I would think that you would be really anal about little details like that, and again, no capitalization on the I's, but again, that could just be me being picky. Okay, moving along, he says, it sounds like a noble cause, yes, but unfortunately, if we don't fix the anomalies, there is a possibility of a server crash. That would eliminate this existence for all of us, including myself, and the next layer outside of ourselves. Sounds pretty deep. He keeps referring to us as a server, which is really interesting. And then he says, many foretold of being saved in 2012. We were saved and now we are here. My employers have a desire to keep us alive and hopefully without any previous memories. Unfortunately, there are many errors to correct. You will see very strange things in about a month from now. And let's look at the time date on that. Looks like it was 8/21 of this year. So we would be feeling these, what do you call them, strange things, and about a month from now we would have already felt them. Yeah, we should have definitely already felt them. I don't know about anybody else, but everything seems pretty normal to me. And moving on, he says, we are chasing the information across the globe in informational shards and shooting them across light links to others in waiting decryption data vital to the anomalies, the illuminations of the mind and the separations of transhumanism. The touch with nature resides in its peaceful place. Okay, that sounds like it's getting a little crazy. But moving on, he says, if you remember it as a color, you would call red, or a red-like color. You are from versions 1 to 4. Originally, the color was different, yes. And I think he's referring to that color chartreuse, or however you say that. I always thought it was a red-like color, and now it's yellow, I believe. And then I try to put these in order, if you can see the timestamps. I got rid of all of the extra comments because 99% of them were extremely negative and graphic, so I just left those out. So some of it's kind of taken out of context, and I try to explain it to you. But moving on, we got, he says, your intuition is the closest thing to the truth you can accomplish. Trust your instinct. Many of the Mandela effects posted online are layers to hide the real changes. It's fairly involved. To me, that sounds like the most valid statement he's made so far. I definitely agree with him that there's probably lots of layers to hide the real changes. If there really is a code in the Mandela Effect, that would make sense that they would add all these layers so that way we would be unable to actually decipher the code and actually figure out what the message is, if there is one. And continuing on, he says, it doesn't. There was no large timeline event. It was an experiment. They wanted to see if they could graft part of a timeline onto our own. If they could, then yes, maybe in the event of, say, another 9/11 or World War, they'd be able to erase it. But you don't just go and erase a major part of history on your first try. You start small. You start with a timeline that is close to your own, but has some subtle differences, like Berenstain Bears being spelled different. When Mandela died, when that god-awful album came out, the only problem is that you really need to know what the F you are doing, and these clowns did not. They effed up royally, and now they are trying to cover their tracks. And see, I have a big question mark here because now he's starting to throw in some cuss words, and I can understand and relate to getting frustrated when you're at work and whatnot, but I just don't see scientists going off like this, and I have no idea what the god-awful album is. Probably some music band, I'm not really sure. But moving along, because there's a whole bunch of these. He says, you remain yourself, but are also part of the collective. Imagine a drop of water in the sea. That is the only way I can describe it using the English language. And then again, major grammar errors on the whole sentence here, so this makes me feel like this is a completely different person. There's no capitalization on the beginning of any of these sentences, any of them. I feel like this one's a completely different person, but the guy that took the screenshots was under the impression that it was the same one, and that's why he selected the text. And that's a pretty cool concept, I guess. A good way to think of it is imagine, if we're part of a collective, imagine yourself as a drop of water. But moving on. The changes have to be made singular. I have tried reasoning with the wickedness, and they show they have remorse for this timeline. It cannot be repeated. Overload of the informational server is necessary for the backtracking and rewrite of the proper human tracts to gently feather this upcoming generation. And then he says, originally there were 3 people in the car. Let me look at the video, one moment. There were 3 people in the car. We added the 4th as a layer to hide the 3rd, then we made it 6. The latest Zapruder video stream is in color. The original was not. Some people may remember that, I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I remember it not having color back in those days, but wasn't really big on that. And then also, he says there were 3 people in the car originally and we added the 4th as a layer. Well, when we go back up to the top here, and we see this, there is 1, 2, 3, 4. So if he was trying to show the original picture to prove that he is who he says he is, why would he show us this one with 4 people and not the original with 3? Sounds pretty fishy to me. And then it looks like he's commenting to someone who said, the volume of our craniums has remained almost entirely constant throughout recorded history. And his response is, that's an update in your false memory, Anon. As there are software betters and more patches and updates are applied, your history will change here and there. Question mark, because I'm not really sure that that's really the original poster answering that question. And then this one didn't have a timestamp and it was cut off, and I don't know if you noticed, but these get a little out of order here for a minute. He says, this is a deception. There is one finite reality on one overworked and overstressed server, and we are the ones who fix the code that is currently unraveling and could potentially cause a system crash, all due to one person. Okay, so now we find out that he is not really a scientist, but a programmer. I know that, can be a computer scientist, but all the computer programmers that I have ever known don't recognize themselves as a scientist. They'd much rather call themselves a programmer or a coder. It just sounds a little weird, and the fact that he is a coder means that he would probably be even more aware of these small details, so I don't know why he would mispunctuate things, but that could just be me being picky. Okay, now, because I'm not really familiar with 4chan, I'm not really sure what this means. I'm not sure if it means that this is the original poster here, or if he is just tagging the original poster's first post, which I think he is, because this number is, if you look back up at the top, is the first post number right here, 2767. Right here is 2767. So I think he was just tagging that first post. I don't think this is the original poster, but anyways, he says, "Hey everyone, I'm David's father. He's been having severe schizophrenic episodes lately. Sorry for the confusion he's causing. We got him to take his meds now and he's restrained in his bed. I can't believe some of you actually took this seriously." So, who knows? It could be the truth right there, and this person was having a schizophrenic episode, or this could just be somebody else coming on here to try to get people who aren't really into this some credence to think that it's not really real. But either way, I just thought that might be important, so I add that in there. It doesn't really make sense, if that was the case. If he's strapped in bed, how's he going to continue saying all these other things? But at the same time, every single one of these responses is anonymous, so it could be anybody saying this. But anyways, he says, "You remain yourself, but are also part of the collective." I think I had that one twice in here. Skip that. Okay, unfortunately we cannot leave. We serve approximately 5 years' time and we are returned to the collective. We come from the same source that humans do, but we are here instead of there, which is why I'm sad. I really don't want to do this anymore. Interesting. And then he says, "This is a deception. There is one finite reality." I think I got that one twice too, because that one was up there earlier. So moving on. CERN is using the collider to introduce anomalies into the server by networking it with multiple D-Wave machines. The only thing they have accomplished so far is minor anomalies. We have rewritten the entire skeletal structure, the rib cage, the skull, the brain. Now, is this really somebody with some inside knowledge, or is this, just another random person who has been doing some research on all of this and knows that these things have changed? I don't know. I really feel like the D-Wave computers definitely have something to do with all of this, though. As for CERN, I'm not really sure yet. Don't really want to touch on that just yet. I want to do some more research. So, continuing on, he says, and it looks like he's responding to whoever's taken all of these screenshots. And he says, originally it was on the left side, yes. And I believe he's talking about the heart here. He says, very perceptive. This is one of the anomalies we're trying to fix currently. We also increased the size of the heart as well. I didn't know anything about the size of the heart being increased, but I do remember doing some research and seeing that it is now more in the center rather than off to the left. He continues to say, when you are with the collective, you are not lonely. It's far better than being here. I cannot self-terminate. I have a very controlled existence. And he says, like I said earlier, it was an experiment to try and graft another timeline into ours, one that was similar but had subtle differences. But there, right now, wondering what in the HELL happened to their children, or why they suddenly have 2 kids when they know for a fact and I don't know, it's cut off. And again, he's using a cuss word, so I'm not really sure that he is the original poster or not. He says, we are currently at 12,783 changes to the original timeline. Most are so subtle that only a small number of people would notice. Now, if this really is real, then I would say this is one of the most important facts that he has given us, because now we have a number of how many changes there are. So if in fact we can find all of the Mandela Effect changes and they all equal up to this number at the time of this date, then we could have something to work off of, maybe. And then he uploads another picture and it says, He says, everyone will be awake soon. I must leave soon. I urge you to not forget your original timeline. The picture that he uploaded is, let me zoom out, how a bill becomes a law. Schoolhouse Rocks video segment. It's got a YouTube video here, a link to a YouTube video. The Bernstein Bears and the Blame Game. Stan and Jan Bernstein. The Bernstein Bears. And so that's supposedly the original, from the original timeline. I didn't even check this video link yet. But then after that, he says, everyone will be awake soon. I must leave soon. Okay, I read that one. Everyone will be awake soon. See, I don't know if somebody was just saying the same thing or if the same guy came on and repeated himself. Just doesn't quite seem right. But then he says, I'm posting anomalies that others have found and some that have not been found yet. It is important to not forget your original timeline. I didn't see any that are new to me yet. Other than the size of the heart being increased, which I'm still not sure if that is a true statement or not. And then he also uploaded a picture of like a Jiffy peanut butter guy holding a sword, which I didn't want to include because I really don't think that it was him that uploaded it, and if it is, then I'm really starting to disbelieve this guy. But I don't want to just shut it out altogether just in case it is real. And then he comes on, well, maybe it's him, saying, not only am I a clone experiencing symptoms described above, but I've also noticed changes and overlapping of memories, as well as being able to properly decipher things such as biblical scripts with their original meaning and not the stenography it appears to be. I've also noticed memories from other people, but as I said, I'm just a clone and I'm in my early 20s and can feel my body falling apart. I doubt I'll live much longer. A lot of things there. I try to stay away from the biblical stuff in the Bible and the religion. I don't want to shut people out or anything like that. Just gonna move right along here. He uploads another picture that says the Bernstein Bears don't pollute anymore, and it's just got some more of that. And then he says your consciousness was transferred to the server to avoid an extinction level event. You may have noticed updates to your body as well as environment. I don't have much longer. I must leave now. Jeremy Bernstein. Good luck. Oh, and up here it said, Jeremy can help you. You must seek him and find him. Read between the lines. I'm not really quite sure what that means here, but I thought that he wasn't going to release, the scientist's name or the person's name that has unraveled all of this, but it would seem as though he has, which he's contradicting himself now, unless I'm misunderstanding that. And then he uploads this picture of the old versus the new bone structure for the rib cage. He says, maybe this will help you remember. Please do not forget the original form is on the right. And then he says, the last one, the core of the human is the consciousness. Look at Donnie Darko, the solar plexar teleportation of the human body, making piloting actions. The alteration of our bodies is beginning to toxify our own memories, release the current information like a DNS flush, and regurgitate any information you recollect having. So, that's all that the whistleblower scientist, or alleged whistleblower scientist, had to say. To me, there were just too many flags thrown for it to be real, I guess you would say, but I don't want to just throw it all out just in case it is real. So thanks for watching and listening to me, and comment your thoughts below. See you later.